Welcome to A Flash of Beauty, the podcast, an audio experience dedicated to the further exploration of Bigfoot and the people Bigfoot has revealed itself to. What started with a documentary of eyewitness testimony and expert analysis has now led the film's crew deeper down the path to follow up with those whose lives are forever changed by this cloaked reality. Tune in weekly to join me, your host, Tobe Johnson, and my co-host, Jill Remensnyder, as we go back into the trees to sit down once more with our guest in search of the truth, no matter how strange. All right, hello, Jill.
Hi, Tobe.
Well, here we go again, another episode with a guest from A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. And tonight we're talking to Ashlea Stinnett. Not Ashlea Stinnett. I made that mistake towards the end, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. I never pronounce your name incorrectly, Jill, do I?
No, you practiced, though, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
I could very well say it incorrectly. This is one heck of an interview, and Ashlea is profoundly affected by the phenomena. Is that fair to say?
Oh, and then some. And then some. And and not only is she affected and interacting, but she has a really profound understanding
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of all of it.
Yeah. Well, to the degree where I feel like I haven't done anything with my research, and and so I have a lot of notes here over our talk with her, and there's some really interesting things here. I mean, we kind of have it all. We have doppelgangers, we have sightings, we have objects thrown, we have healings, and I feel like that was only maybe 10% of where we could have gone with Ashlea, but you're going to be seeing more of her in the future in 2025. So we'll talk more about that, but it's one heck of a conversation, and we have pictures, which is always nice because now we are not just doing a podcast, there is also this visual medium. So let's get started with our guest here, Ashlea Stinnett. Our guest today, up in the upper left-hand corner, Ashlea Stinnett. Hello, Ashlea.
Hello, thank you guys so much for bringing me over to your digital campfire. I'm really excited to be here and to explore all the topics that we get to explore. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You are welcome. Thanks for being here. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun one.
Yay. Cool.
Ashlea, I want to hear it, and I want to hear it all from the beginning here. So walk people through how you got involved with Sasquatch, what kind of your origin story is for the people that haven't seen you in A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. And then we're going to talk about the nitty gritty as it relates to some of the stuff you showed in the film and work our way out.
Cool. Thank you. I'll try to wrap it up in a good little package here. In 2010, I moved to the Pacific Northwest from Phoenix, Arizona with my family, and I had experienced UFO paranormal type of stuff in my past and kind of like all throughout my life, but it's not something that I ever put time, energy, or attention into. It was just, different occurrences. Even though those occurrences, when I look back now, they weren't just small events. They were very, very big events. But when I did move up to the Pacific Northwest and we were living off of the Columbia River Gorge on the outskirts of Portland, we saw a lot of activity in the skies, a lot of that that you would categorize as unidentified flying objects. And it became so prevalent that I really had to put that time and energy and effort into learning about what exactly is going on up in the skies. And in doing so, it really led me down some very specific paths. It put me in in positions to have more experiences and to meet people who were very knowledgeable in the different areas of their expertise in these areas of paranormal and so this whole journey has been a continuing one and I we talk about this time frame of like when we wake up, right? Like when we wake up out of the matrix, or we really notice that there's a little more going on to this experience um, than just kind of like that ticky tacky type of boxed in reality. And so I was really waking up to a lot, exposing myself to a lot in that first 3 years of being up here and having a lot of experiences along the way. In 2013 was when I had my first experience with the Sasquatch. And all of this, again, like I said, it wasn't on my radar. I was not someone who was fascinated by the subject. It wasn't it wasn't on my radar. It's not part of the like the culture of the places that I was living around the country in my youth. So in 2013, I had my first experience, which is talked about on the films, and I really just pinpointed in on this particular subject. I found it to be very, very important, and that it also was it was important for learning about the UFO experience and what all of that was about, and knowing that and having experiences with them together, and knowing that all of these are pieces to this puzzle. So 2013, I had my first experience, and then I just I hit the ground running, and that put me into connection with more people who knew and understood that the Sasquatch were people, that they had these higher dimensional aspects to them, and also higher dimensional abilities. So I started camping with different groups and learning from other people, and that led me to learning about Barb Shupe and learning about her YouTube channel and knowing, wow, that's not too far away. And all of my experiences and research and all of that, like that was my filter to know that what she was presenting and the people that she was um, doing these campouts with, this was the real deal. This they were not they were not telling tall tales. They were not stretching the truth. They didn't have to. And they were honestly and openly talking about these experiences, and they were real. So that was definitely I was a huge fan. And a few years later, after learning about the show, I got the opportunity um, to go on campouts with Barb and the group starting in 2018. And that first trip, that very first camping trip was life changing for me completely. It upended me and sent me on a 180, and that also included healing on some very big levels, and facing you know, that kind of dark night of the soul as well, because I I initiated this contact with them, and I asked for a particular connection with help. I asked them to help me with something, and then they did. They responded with that help, you know, a thousandfold, to where it's still affecting me positively today in 2024. So it was it was kind of like, even from that 2013 up until that 2018, that was kindergarten, you know. And then stepping into camp with Barb was going to university and getting my PhD. type of thing. And this doesn't mean that I'm an expert at all. It just means that that was how big of a jump it was in terms of what I was going to experience, what I was going to learn, and the things that we were going to experience together. I think that this is a bit universally felt by anyone who gets to participate in a Barb Shupe campout. That yes, it's important that we're having these experiences with the Sasquatch and everything that contains, you know, everything that is contained in having a connection with these other beings, these other people. There, that's a high level of amazement. But what's also really amazing is this connection that we have with the people, and the people that gather, and the magic that comes from that too. So like everyone's participating and everyone's like uplifting these campouts to the most incredible experiences. So when I said I had, you know, this life-changing experience in 2018, that's also something that happens. You know, miracles happen every day. They, you know, a million of them happen a second. And when we get to hone in and focus and then also work on these levels with these beings who are willing to work with us, man, there's a lot of beauty that is coming out of this. So.
Ashley, for you, that initial when you spoke about reaching out and making contact with them, seeking help, would you say this was almost like your initiation into the Sasquatch world, or did was that the accelerator, so to speak?
It was it wasn't my first experience with them, and I in in this continuing contemplation, I have to really like look at my entire life and think back to different places where there could have been contact, and maybe it's been wiped from my memory, or maybe it's just not something that my brain is allowing me to, you know, who knows, right? Like I can look back and go, well, maybe that was something, maybe that was something. But again, I didn't have any real frame of reference or connection until that I had my first experience in 2013 in that pursuit of the UFO, you know, and learning about that. 2013, I had my first encounter, and then 2018 was that first camp out with Barb, and it was this evolutionary step, because it seemed like from 13 to 18, you know, this time frame, it was very much a learning process. I was dedicated for sure, not just only in like the study at home, but also going out in different areas and doing that work like in their homelands and camping. Um, but it seemed like that, you know, going to a Barb Shoot camp, like again, like that's like university level. That that's not something that you take lightly, you know. And so when I did that, and I had that experience and I had that healing with them, it really felt like they were like, are you ready to go farther? Are you ready? Are you really ready to learn? Because if you are, you need to take these levels to heal yourself. And we'll help you with that, but ultimately it's up to you. But if you're ready, we're ready. So I mean, like that's what it felt like. And um and I think that there's a really important lesson in that when because I mean, I guess just to, I've talked about this in other interviews or anything, but I dealt with a pretty hardcore alcoholism for a really large chunk of my life, from my teenage years all the way up until this camp out. And that was what I needed to work on. You know, it didn't matter that I had gone from my super crazy cool party days of bar hopping and whatnot in my 20s down to still having just like some ciders every night. when I got home from work or whatever, I was still participating in a destructive behavior. And and when I spoke into the forest when I got there, and Barb said, if you have anything that you want to say to them, you can say that. You just telepath, they'll hear you. And I turned around and I looked, and I knew that I needed help with that. But I didn't have enough courage to even fully say it in a telepathic communicate, not even out loud, right? But like in a very exposed, naked way, I said to them in my brain, out, telepathed, I said, please help me heal that which I need to heal. And that set off a whole line of events that happened that night, which I described, where I was touched on the side of my temples down to my jaw. I had the body scan. I had all these things happening, and it was a kickoff point of a healing that lasted from that camp out was in June of 2018, that lasted until October, when that kind of chapter ended. And I haven't touched alcohol since the 4th of July, when a secondary incident happened at the house, which I'm pretty sure is connected to them, and then set off these series of events that lasted until October. And so that was a massive chapter that got closed in my life through their help, absolutely through their help. I mean, fully. And then from that time until now, I can see why they we know that they probably have some capabilities of seeing into the future, of knowing future events as much as they know past events, and time is not linear for them as it is for us. So what I find really interesting is that they participated very much in this healing for me. And then very soon after that, I went through a series of life events that, if I would have kept on drinking during those events, it could have been extremely self-destructive. So it wasn't even just, that one particular aspect of my addiction to alcohol, but also, I mean, like, that healing dominoed and made sure that literally I'm still here today. I definitely went through a pretty large chapter of some tumultuous times that could have taken me out, like if I would have been drowning myself. So I I talk a lot about healing when I talk about the Sasquatch, because it's absolutely connected, in my experience, and not just my experience, but in many other people's experiences, especially when they're coming at this with respect, and with that higher understanding of who they are, and that higher respect of who they are. And what does that say for us in the future? How can we help each other in the future? What is that, relationship? How do we get to build that in the most beautiful ways? If this is just my little story, I know that there's 1,000 plus other people out there who could probably say the same about how they've changed their life. Hundreds of thousands, who knows, right? Like, truly, like, what are the numbers of the people who've been positively affected by the Sasquatch? And those numbers are growing every day, because the confidence within the person and within the experiencer, that confidence is rising, because this conversation is happening, because the films have come out and had such beautiful impact as they have, and as they should, you know and it's evolutionary for us in ways that, man, we're kind of like, we're watching it all unfold as well. We're participating, but also, like, the unfoldment is so much bigger than the sum of the parts are so much bigger. This wave is occurring within the consciousness of humans. That's a big deal. Like, it's not small potatoes here. This is big stuff. It's amazing. You guys are a part of it. You guys are doing it. You guys are bringing it to the world. Keep that in mind. Like, pat yourself on the back. You know, like it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what you guys have done. And like I'll say that forever. And I'll be the manic street preacher about a flash of beauty, like telling everybody, you gotta go watch Flash of Beauty. It's gonna change your life.
All right, here's my question for you, Ashley. Is that um, you are a very red-pilled person, and you're seeing this from a deeper level, but yet Sasquatch seems to get close to people that aren't deep as well. Like, this is the curious part, is that um, they seem to be attracted to a wide variety of people and helping people that want to prove they exist or want to go after it from the ego's sake. They still seem invested in certain people that you would never really suspect. Like, I could see them. Let's just say they're like, the Dalai Lama or something like that. Like, they have the spiritual strength of a Tibetan monk. I could see why they'd want to reach out to you, because you're going to listen. You're going to go deeper with them. However, they go after people that are just very simple mind, and I don't mean this derogatory, but aren't dealing in the world that you're dealing with on a constant. You know what I mean? So why do you think that is? Why do you think that they seem to be working with a wide variety of people, even those
Hmm.
people that are doubters and that have strong egos attached to them, and that kind of just, I don't know, it irritates me. Like, I'm irritated by the fact that they're reaching out to some of these knuckleheads, and um,
So,
why do you think that is?
think about this. You're coming at it and you're looking at it from a human perspective, right? And that can get clouded with judgment, and you can get clouded with what you know about how the knuckleheads or whatever like come about this subject. Um, but I think it speaks to their holiness,
Hmm.
right? To that aspect of their higher being, and that they can see us for all of our flaws, and they would and they're not going to judge the individual because of the flaws of humanity and where we're at right now, or for the broken individual, right? We're all broken in our own great ways, right? And they don't it's like they don't take that into consider, or it's not part of it, right? They don't have that judgment connected to that. But something too that was recently said by Tom Cantrell in a talk that I had with him and Brian, and I thought this was a really really important point, and something that Red Stripe, I guess, has relayed to Tom, that they're not going to give you more than 110% of what you already know. And I think that also speaks to their holiness, and to their higher nature, because there is no higher being that's going to hold your hand and tell you everything, and just do everything for
Hmm.
you, right? That's trickery. So when you have a Sasquatch being who is operating in these higher frequencies, in like the most respectful ways, they're not taking into consideration any of the flaws of the people who are reaching out to them, in no matter the capacity of where they're at, and the levels of their consciousness with them, and they're going to interact with them at that level. And
Hmm.
that's where I think, like, everybody can come to the party, you know but it's up to you to work on yourself if you want to go to the VIP room. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really work on yourself before you can walk through that door and get to that next level with them. And that's where we're at, and that's what I'm seeing. Like, and again, it speaks to where we're at and where we're going. Like I don't care about the government anymore. Like they can all be really silly, and like I don't have a fear of them doing something to the Sasquatch, or the corporations or any of that. It's like, man, that's all way over there, and it doesn't even matter, because like we're in the VIP room now. Like it's this stuff's way more important than any of the distraction, you know?
I like it. Jill, you had a confirming face when she said the VIP room.
Well, I was using, I was trying to explain to someone earlier, and this is a little bit off topic, but in terms of, oh, here we go. I'll just put it out there and then we can get back to our discussion. But
That's
I
all
was
right.
using a VIP room reference in trying to talk to someone about the afterlife and communication and what's in store, and comparing, like, we're in line for the club, but they've already got access to the VIP room, and we have to, yeah. So, anyways,
I've never used that before either. Like that just popped in. I've never used that.
interesting. We're on the same frequency. That's what's back
Yeah.
in like 2010 club talk. I don't know, but
Well, I
I
mean,
did
after
think it
you're
was
informed to this level, Ashley, there's really no going back. I mean, I've seen people with this level of insight and they stifle at this degree because now we get into the religious connotations of what you're saying. For some people, right? Like their worldview would be dominated by their upbringing, and this would get into an uncomfortable territory. But you're not having to deal with the shackles of some said religion or something like that. So, do you think what is the difference here between spirituality and religion? And do you think this could become some kind of religion for people? Are there
God, I hope
dangers to
not.
that?
I hope not. Like we don't need to bring them into any type of idolatry. That's not what it's about. Um,
Well, let me
I
ask you this: do you think that they were ever worshipped to the degree that they were idols of such? Because what we're talking about here is something akin to a god just by description of what we've said over the last 15 minutes here and the things that I've spoken about in length, do you think that they were ever perceived in that way
um,
by a culture?
the kind of the only like veneration that I can see where there could be a correlation is with Hinduism and the Hanuman. But um, other than that, like I can't think of any. But I'm not an expert on that at all.
Right.
But where in this 14-year time period, I've from that 2010 time period up until now, like I've just dedicated myself to study, really. Like that's it. And a lot of that has been religious study, creation, stories, mythology, lore, all of the stories, right? And finding the correlations, and seeing the rivers that run through all of it, and connect to all of these things, and that there's a larger story that can be pulled out from all of this. And um, I really haven't seen them as being put in that spot of being worshipped. I can't see that. I see more like within the mythologies and the stories and the folklores, and all of that, as that the humans knew them as the brothers and sisters of the
Mhm.
forest. They were the neighbors, and it would be we don't even know our history. Like
Right.
it's just a big fucking mystery about us. Like we have all of these pieces. They're all saying something, but there's literally nothing that we have that says like, yeah, this is the truth. This is the full truth, completely 100%.
Right.
There's things that come close, but still we don't have that, right? So who are they and who are we? Who are all of us in this experience together? There's obviously meaning. There's obviously a lot of meaning to this for every single person who's participating in this, you know, consciousness experience. Um, and I think that the closer that we get to a a a relationship with the Sasquatch, like we could fill in some of those gaps of our history of who we are, because you know we've certainly been affected in many different ways, and histories have been wiped, and resets have been done, and cycles and ages have come and gone, and so everything's like really muffled with that with us. But have they just been on the sidelines? Do they have just this witness history, to where all of this has been happening with humanity, but they're not part of humanity, they're outside of it, they're watching all of this stuff from afar. um, they are showing themselves to be in, at least with these experiences that we've had and with the people that I go out camping with, you guys included. Like, we're respectful, we're coming from our heart, we're appreciating the land, we're respecting each other, we're doing all of these things in a higher vibrational place. We're connecting with them who are in these higher vibrational places, and they are representing a they are representing godliness. They are representing a higher standard of how one would operate within this realm, right? They there is an aspect of that, and we can see that with how they raise their children. We can see that with how they interact with us. We can see that with how they interact with their homelands, you know. So so who are they? Who are they in this chain of representations of 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 the creator? They're the brothers and sisters. That seems to be the one thing that is relayed from the old days to now. You know, there is a relationship, but there's also a separation. How long has that separation been actually going on? And is it going to return into a unification with them soon?
Right. Go ahead, Jill.
So, I mean, and just a really quick note about the worship, like were they ever worshipped? I think we have to kind of reframe. I think people get deep respect confused with worship too. I think there's a history of cultures that probably honored and showed respect and knew what they were capable of. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Whereas I could see how some people might misunderstand that reverence and that understanding of them. But you know what I mean, as some sort of worship. But
Right. I guess I was just wondering if there was ever an offering made before, like a bronze statue of a Sasquatch kind of
I don't think there has
situation.
been. I'm yeah. I don't know. I haven't come across anything like that in my studies of it.
Yeah.
I did want to say something though, that you just talked about, kind of like clearing the air. I wanted to bring this up, and it's a little slightly off topic, not really. Um, in There was a few comments in the extended interview of mine where people felt that when I was talking about that first experience at Barb's camp out, and I had the touching on the sides, and then I heard the voices outside, and I described it as androgynous. And a few people thought that I was talking about the gender of the individuals or beings on the outside of the tent. And I just wanted to make it clear I was not talking about the gender of the individuals outside my tent. I was speaking about what their voices sounded like, that I could not tell if it was male or female, and that the voices of these three all sounded pretty much exactly the same, and they were monotone, and the voice like signature was androgynous. It wasn't deep, but it wasn't feminine either. It was this middle zone. So I really wanted to just put that out there for everyone, because there's no like gender agenda at all. And I know I might be a bit of a handsome lady, but that has absolutely nothing to do with what happened during that camp out. And really, after all these years, and looking back at that event, and also knowing that the Sasquatch are in, they are working with the star nations, right? And I have a really big connection with them too, right? Like, it didn't just like start a little bit with the UFOs and they went away. Absolutely not. I just put a video out yesterday of a compilation from just April to October, and there's like 30 in there, and it's about 1/4 of what I've actually seen. So I'm wondering if it wasn't star people that were outside the tent along with Sasquatch people when they performed that that healing that happened. I'm frozen. Do you see that I'm frozen?
No,
No,
you're
you're not.
moving.
Oh, frozen on your end.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the star people. Uh,
Maybe, dude. Oh, also, real quick. So in the extended interview, about 3 minutes in, the entire screen goes red. Is that on purpose?
It
mm,
does?
It does. It goes red when I'm talking about a particular aspect of the star people and Sasquatch and stuff. And the whole screen goes red, and it's like it looks like snow on a television, only red and white.
We proof it. I just want everyone to know, like, we proof these things. We
yeah.
sometimes a typo will
What
get
kind of
through.
operation you're running
Yeah,
over there, Jill?
this fly by night
Yeah, see, we're gonna
editing
edit this with a
process.
Timu editing
Because
No, I
they,
don't know.
software
I'll look
here.
into that.
yeah, look into it. It's like within the first 4 minutes, it's like 3 to 3:30 or 3:30 to 4 minutes, something like that. And it's when I'm talking about a very specific, paranormal type of thing, to where that type of thing could like fit in with what I was saying.
Mhm.
So, and we know that they can mess with electronics. We know that they can imprint things digitally. So you guys have been so busy. I've wanted to ask.
But Ashley, no one else has commented on it.
One other person did.
They did. Okay,
Yeah.
somehow that
Huh.
got by us. Okay, I'll look into it. Brett's he'll flip his lid over this.
That's
But
gonna keep him up all night now.
oh, it will. It will. Yeah.
Cause I
Okay.
couldn't, I can't place it as being like I was like, maybe it's a zoom in
Mhm.
of the red orb, but it still doesn't look like that because it's not flashing on and off. It's
Mhm.
just this red,
Huh.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
trip. So,
Well,
what happened when we were filming? You got touched on the back of your head. A shadow person walked behind me, and the door to the basement opened.
that's a whole other. There was a lot going on in there, and there was definitely someone, because there was like a behind you. I remember, like, here's the bar area. There was definitely like some action going on behind you. But yeah, I remember I was like, oh, someone's trying to get my attention. But yeah, that's right. The door opening, and we went downstairs, and it was just, the air was thick. You know
Very
what I mean?
thick, very thick.
It's like, oh, something is about to happen. So
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, we have some show and tell here. Let's go ahead and cue up these photos here because people love physical evidence, Ashley. So let's give it to them. Let's talk about the first picture here, which on my view is going to be a row of pine cones. Why don't you give us the details here and I'll bring up the picture.
I am so excited about this story. So, to start off, I called them pine cones. You just called them pine cones. They are not pine cones, they're Douglas fir cones. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what they are. They're Douglas fir cones, and this is September, and they're all green up in the trees. You cannot, they don't fall out of the trees. Squirrels will pick them. Squirrels will take them off, and they'll drop them. You know, maybe one or two at a time, and they'll just drop straight down from where they're at. Well, I had all of these plus I don't know 2 to 3 times more. This is just what I picked up off the ground. But all of these were thrown at my tent or at me or my friend who came in a little on the second day. They were all being thrown at an angle from the top of the trees down to us with like the just like most amazing precision and accuracy and speed. And it was not in an aggressive manner. It was extremely playful. And there's a few things that go along with this that just take it off, off the charts. So number one, there was a point where I think it was Friday morning. I woke up pretty early. I was in camp from a Monday to a Sunday. So, and I had no one else around me. I was in an area where I had no neighbors, and and I was laying in bed, and I had opened the window, the window next to where my cot was, and it was the wall, the back wall that was facing where the trees were, where all of these were coming from. And at one point I telepathed, and I said, if you want to hit the tent pretty hard, you can. I'm cool with it. And it was immediately answered with one that came in wham, like super fast, and it hit the rain fly in like the most perfect angled way, that it dropped water that had accumulated on the rain fly down inside the window all over my face when I was laying there. So there was this there was telepathy, there was like, reaction happening. um all of these were coming down just one after another. And again, this is like one third of what was actually thrown, and there's over 50. And so this was happening, and then I had hand swipes as well on the tent while I was in the tent during the day, and also when I was looking at the tent, like I was looking in that area. And I was actually filming. I was filming for my YouTube channel, and it was after two hand swipes. One where I just heard it. The second one I saw it in my periphery. So then I turned around and I was facing this back wall, and I was like, I'm gonna start recording, and I start recording, and as I'm recording, another hand comes down, and I see the hand. I saw the hand twice, and it was larger. It was slightly larger than my hand, and thicker than my hand, much thicker. And it came from like the middle point down, to where I couldn't see it anymore because my cot was up against that. But the angle of light and the sun, it was the perfect scenario for that to occur. And 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 it gets even weirder. Okay, let's get weirder with this. So, so the hand swipe day, when I had gone over, we had eaten lunch down at base camp, and I had gone back up to my tent because I wanted to clean up and like make my bed, and it had finished raining, so my tent had a lot of water on it. I was inside, I was cleaning up. I started hitting the walls of the tent to knock the water off, And one of the other campers, his name's David, he's walking up the road, the Forest Service road, because he wants to come over to my area. And that's normal. There's campers who have come in and out. Maybe like there's like 3 or 4 times where people wanted to come over and just sit with the energy and explore that area, right? So he's walking up and he's wanting to do this, and he's looking and he's seeing, you know, the inside of the tent being hit all over. And he also hears a voice, a loud voice of a young man or a young male say, "Boys," just like that. And he stops in the road, and it's none of our campers. None of our camp. We don't have children at this camp. There's no kids. There's no reason why anyone would shout out "boys," and yet he heard this. And it he hesitates for a second, but then he keeps on walking up, and he sees me hitting the inside of the tent, but he doesn't see me. So he's wondering, he's like, is that actually like what's going on, right? Like, is she really in that tent? Did I wake her up? I don't know. I had no idea he was out there. And as I'm inside the tent, I get this overwhelming urge out of nowhere to sing the chorus line to Deep Red Bells by Nico Case. And so I belt it out. I belt it out while I'm inside the tent all alone for no reason. And then I just continue to do my stuff. And then a little while later is when the hand swipes happened, right? So when I get back and I see David later, and I'm like, yeah, I had these hand swipes. He's like, yeah, I went over there and I was gonna go walk over to you, but someone said "boys," and then I heard you sing, and I thought I maybe like woke you up or something, so I just left and I went in the other direction. And I was like, yeah, well, as soon as you left, I had these hand swipes happen on the tent. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a mimic that was done to to gain his attention or to alert maybe some young juveniles who were around the tent or something. I had an overwhelming urge out of nowhere to belt out a lyric to a song, and I can only like really think about how they can do Jedi mind tricks and how they can make you do things and think things and feel things and say things and do all of that. And so I did this, which set up, you know, David to move in a different direction and then for me to have that experience, right?
Do you remember the lyrics, that the specific lyrics? Because I wonder if there's a connection there too.
You know, I've been going down a Nico Case kick for a little bit, so I've definitely been listening to her music. That particular song is when I did do a little bit of a deep dive afterwards. I was like, what is this song? What is this lyric? There's some interesting lyrics by themselves that are kind of squatchy, but I think the entire song is about the Green River Killer, like the serial killer. So like, that's that's what the song is about. But the line itself is deep red bells, deep red bells, deep as I've been down. Like so, but there's a line in that song where it's like a greasy handprint on the car door or something. I'm like, well, we've had
Oh,
greasy handprints on the car
Ooh.
door before. But she's from Tacoma. I wonder, and she lives on land up in Tacoma. I wonder if
but
that's
Ashley,
what
you
it
knew
is.
the lyrics to this song. This was something you knew beforehand.
Yeah,
This
I
came out of
knew
your
I
subconscious.
knew the
Okay.
lyrics, but the song was not in my head. I wasn't thinking about it. I
Hmm.
wasn't wanting to sing. It wasn't something that
Hmm.
like it just it popped into my head and then I did it without even going, "Oh, that's something I wanted to do." It just happened. And then
Hmm.
afterwards, it's like, "Oh, well, as soon as I did that, you took off and then all this other stuff started happening." So another aspect of this camp out where these pretty amazing events all occurred, and I think this interaction was from the same individual, like that the Douglas fir cones were being thrown by this one that I got to see. After 11 years, I had my first physical sighting. I've seen them in a light body. I've had them in the physical right outside of my tent. I've been touched by them. I've had a whole just, rainbow of things and uh, all over the place of experiences. But this physical sighting has been a little elusive for me up until this camp out. And it was kind of like gracefully, like I was gracefully given a couple of head start steps with, like, the hand swipes and seeing the hands, very physical hands, just on the other side with the light hitting it in such a way that I saw all the details of them, right? And that was on I think that was on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then Thursday, so there's two more events that just are so trippy about this trip, man. So Thursday, we were down at the base camp at nighttime, and we're drumming, we're playing the drums, we're having fun. It's about 10 o'clock, and Barb decides that she's going to go to bed. So she goes over to the snack table. She loads up her little wagon with all the snacks, and she rolls it on over to her camp where her vehicle is. And she loads up. She says goodbye, good night to everyone. We're still over by the campfire, maybe three or four of us, and say goodbye. She goes over there. She puts the food away, and then I guess she walks around her tent, and she looks up on the Forest Service road, and she sees me walking up the road towards my tent. But I don't have a light on, and there's just a cigarette in my hand where she can see the ember burning off of the cigarette, and my hand swinging like this as I'm walking up this Forest Service road. She doesn't think anything of it. She's like, okay, cool, whatever. I guess Ashley's going to bed too. So she goes to bed. The next day, we see each other, and it's mid morning or so. And we start talking about the night before. And she mentions about how she saw me walk up the road soon after she went back to her tent. And I told her, I said, Barb, I said, I didn't go to bed after you went to bed. I was down by the fire for at least like another 30 minutes. And I said, when I did walk up, I had a drum in my hand, and I had drumsticks, and I had a coffee cup, and I had a thermos, and I had a water bottle, and I had my headlamp like around my neck, illuminating the ground in front of me. That wasn't me, right? So then we know that they mimic. We know that the Sasquatch can mimic physically, audible mimics. They could do all these things. And then there's also kind of even the weirder aspect of like temporal time shifty things and dimensional things and that sort of stuff. So Friday, when we're putting these pieces together and realizing that this event happened the night before, we decide that later that night, when it gets darker, we're gonna do we're gonna recreate the event, and she's gonna stand where she was, and I'm gonna walk up that road wearing what I was wearing, with a lit cigarette in my hand, and see if it correlates and if it looks the same. So Friday, we it's right before dusk, and we walk up the Forest Service road, up the mountain. There's a small group of us. We all have our drums. um Me, Barb, and like three or four other campers. And it's amazing. Like, the music is fucking awesome. Like, we jam it out like no other. It sounds so cool. It's reverberating throughout the entire area. Like, every Sasquatch was jamming. I know, right? Like, it was that good. And we get done, and we're coming down, and then I veer off, and I go over to my campsite, and I put my drum away. And then Barb is standing up at kind of like at the bend of the road, and she's talking with one of the campers, and so I walk past them, And I was like, well, I'm going to give them their space. They're in a conversation or whatever. So I kept moving down the road about 50 feet or so. And I just stopped and I waited because we were going to do this recreation from the night before. So I was just waiting there. And I'm standing in the middle of the road and I look I I'm looking down the road and there's this snap, a very loud, very, crisp snap that happens in the right side of the trees of the Forest Service Road. And I look over in that direction and, just gut feeling, knowing that, yeah, that was Sasquatch related. And then I take my gaze and I bring it to the left and I look down into the valley where the base camp is. And I'm just looking there for maybe a good 30 seconds or so, and then I bring my gaze back up and now I'm looking back down the road. And when I look, I see an individual standing in the middle of the road. And he is between 5 to 7 feet tall. He's black, pitch black, monotone, same colored from head to toe. There's no deviation of like a jacket compared to pants, compared to anything. He's lean. His shoulders are very wide, but he's lean. And the closest that I can say is like a swimmer's body, only thicker. And I'm looking and it's like everything just went away and it's just me staring at him, and he's probably between 30 to 40 feet away from me, and his head's down, and he keeps his arms to his side, and he does a shuffle 360 walk in a circle in the middle of the road. I think for me to have a full view of him from every angle, and then he turns towards the left and he walks off the road down the embankment without hesitation and without a headlamp. So when I'm in the road and I'm standing there and it's dusk, I can absolutely see the road, and I don't need a headlamp. But if I was to walk off that embankment and go into the forest from that area, it would be pretty hard for me to do that silently without tripping or falling or doing anything, that could cause a ruckus, right? He walked into this effortlessly, like it not he did not skip a beat, and he walked down into that area, and then it totally dawned on me when I was like, he didn't have a headlamp, and I was like, whoa, holy crackers, right? And so I'm in this completely stunned scenario, and and then Barb and the camper are walking down the road. They're like, all right, you ready? Let's go do that reenactment. Let's go do it right now. And I was like, "Ugh, okay, let's do it now." And I didn't talk about the fact that I just had this sighting. And Barb goes down to where her camp is, and then I'm up on the road, and she's like, okay, we'll stand here and then start walking. So I lit a cigarette and I start walking, and she's like, that looks exactly like what I saw. And I was like, oh, it was close. And she was like, no, that was exactly what I saw. So then I walked down the road, the little side road to the front of where her camp is, and I meet with her, and we're standing there, and she wants to go into more of the reenactment, and I'm like, Barb, wait. She's like, I think I just had my first physical sighting. And she was like, what? What do you mean? What happened? Where? And I was like, well, it's just right up here, and then you guys were over there, and then I was right here, and then he was there, and then this happened, and la la la. And then we both look into the forested area where he would have walked in, and not very far in, he was still there because he shifted, and Barb saw him shift. She was like, whoa, the darkness just shifted. And I was like, yeah, he's probably still there. And so when I talked to Tom about this, And I said 5 to 7 feet tall. He had a rounded skull. It wasn't conical. And then I kind of just went on gut feeling. I thought maybe he was a young teenager. And Tom said he probably was between 9 and 11 years old, and that he still had his round head because he hadn't developed the muscles, because he was still eating soft food, and so he hadn't developed these muscles yet for when he was eating, harder food that then create the conical skull to, accommodate that large band of muscle or ligament or whatever. So he was 9 to 11 years old. He was 5 to 7 feet tall, and he has the greatest humor in the world, and he's very, very accurate at throwing uh, Doug fir cones.
Oh my God.
Amazing. Amazing.
Now, Ashley, the area in the photo. Let me see if I can bring this back up here. So this area here, I think I'm familiar with where you were. You guys do vignettes periodically, don't you? You do skits and
Yeah.
things for the channel, and there's a lot of humor and joy and music on your end in and around this road. So it would stand the reason that I mean, they're always watching, of course, right? To Barb, and they're definitely the tricksters. But it seems like the perfect area to kind of,
It was
have their
perfect.
own little vignette for you to see or for Barb to see.
It was an absolutely no obstruction, perfect view with the perfect lighting. It was amazing. So then on that other weird spectrum of this, it makes me wonder, because I was 30 feet away from a multidimensional being who showed himself in the physical right after, playing like some really amazing drum music, which is, that's like doing something to the frequency in the area, right? And it's awakening the minerals, it's awakening the nature. And then here's this being who shows himself, and then Barb sees, when I do the recreation, she says, oh, well, that's exactly what it looked like. So it's like, was it a mimic, or was this sighting, was his being there, did that create something that, like,
Hmm.
she saw a flash of, 24 hours later or something, or
Oh.
there was a time slip or a time loop? Because
Oh.
another aspect of this is that when we first got into camp and I was exploring around this area, the first couple of days we were finding non-functioning slugs. Okay, they weren't damaged in any capacity, yet they were non-functioning and above ground. And so when I came back home and I'm like, well, wait a minute, this sighting happened, and then potentially a time loop happened. And then Barb even says it in my video of this trip. She's like, it's like they're radiated or something. What happened to these slugs? So then I think back to that. I'm like, well, maybe they were radiated. Maybe there was a time, dimensional bloop, something that happened when all of us were having, this, sharing the same space with this individual, because they are operating outside of time, and they do bend time, and they do have an effect on their environment like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So this, what time of night did this sighting happen?
So this was right before dusk,
Right
or it was
before.
at dusk. Like
Mhm.
we went up, and when we were drumming, it was like right before dusk. When we got down, it was like dusk, and maybe about, and when we started doing the recreation right after that, it was dark at that point. So
Is it normal for that area to have stuff happen as soon as the sun starts setting?
stuff's happening during the day, stuff's
Daytime
happening
as
at
well.
night, stuff's
Yeah.
happening at all hours, yeah. But
Yeah.
that particular area, when I came out and I talked about it when we got back from the camp, and I posted in the Barb and Goldie, like, Facebook group. and shared my report. Other campers came out and said, yeah, that's a little bit of a highway, and there have been other sightings gone right in that same area. So, but it is this perfect area where they're coming from the other side of the road, and then they're coming down into this little wooded area that's just right over next to the base camp.
Right.
So, they're very much hidden in the shadows, but they get to get really close to us in this
Right.
particular area. So,
Um, I have to mention something here. It'd be foolish if I didn't. It's it's hard for me to believe that they heal people, and people keep telling me that they heal people. You're telling me that they healed you, that they helped you quit drinking. Um, we could go on, and yet I wouldn't ask for a healing during the pandemic. And what was left behind was a mushroom on top of a fossil in an inexplicable space, a gifting altar, and it was known as Black Witch's butter. Um, you were interested in the fact that they could heal from a degree which I didn't know at the time, that they'd already kind of worked with you or working through you. Um, and you heard my claim that when I asked for a cure for or treatment for the pandemic, that they left behind plant medicine, in this case a mushroom. There's a slimy black, almost looks like a goblin's ear kind of thing, and it's known as Exidia glandioso, or black witch's butter, which is a treatment for upper respiratory illness, and if ingested, it is also a way to meet the land spirits. So these were like, you know, 2-in-1 questions answered with this plant medicine. So you knew somebody that had the symptoms of what was going around during the pandemic and suggested that they get in touch with a Chinese herbalist and say, hey, there's this crazy guy down in Oregon, Bigfoot left him a cure for the pandemic. Maybe you should try it for your upper respiratory issues. Tell me, tell me where I went wrong here and what happened.
no, I mean, like you're definitely on course. And I remember when all of that was going down, and kind of we were all getting these downloads, through your question and through the answer. And then how beautiful is our technology right now that we can just like real quickly connect with each other, and within, I don't know, it didn't take long for you to figure out what that was and what it can do. It didn't take me long to let my friend know, who was he wasn't going to go to pharmaceuticals for any type of answer or cure. He wasn't going to go down any other path except for completely naturopathic personal healing from it. And so that's what he did. He went full force on just like fruits and vegetables, and like hardcore amounts of like vitamin C from raw actual plants and all of that. And I said, put the witch's butter in your smoothie, and he did. And he healed himself very quickly, by himself, very quickly, without without any like hardcore side effects or anything.
Hmm. But
So
it's what's interesting is let's say Bigfoot gave me this plant medicine. Um, what you're saying is they don't need to do that. That they can do this psychically if they want to or can, or if you believe they will, right? Like believing is seeing kind of deal. And because there's this cement wall between, the two hemispheres of my brain, I can't quite get there to this otherness that they're able to do to heal you through vibration or psychic energy. Is that right?
and just real quick, I'm frozen on both my little screens. I don't, and Jill's frozen. I don't know if
Let's
um
see. Well, they're messing with you again. Um,
Everything looks fine on our end.
yeah,
really.
proceed as normal, and
Okay.
as long as you can hear us.
Okay, good. But yes, the energetic healing, we're they they obviously know how to manipulate frequency and energy, and they can do it with their bodies, they can do it with the environment, and they can do it with us. And you know, there's, I guess, like kind of the first steps in trying to learn and understand what exactly is going on, and people have you know,
Mhm.
referred to infrasound and kind of like the things that humans play with in terms of frequency and all of that. But yeah, they're doing something. Absolutely. It's not just that I've experienced it once. I've experienced those frequency vibrational aspects of healing multiple times. And it's on things that I've requested help for, and it's on things that I haven't requested help for, but they will pinpoint certain areas. I've had my brain pinpointed on like at least two occasions. And that was the first vibrational experience that I had like that was on my brain, was on my head. It was just centralized on my head. And I had no frame of reference. I didn't know that they were known to do that and that other people had had that experience. It was just something that I filed away.
Mhm.
And but that has, you know, since then I did learn, oh, you know, they are working on frequency levels. Humans do it too, you know. People have the capability to heal through frequency when talking about reiki or
Mhm.
chi or, you know, traditional ways of energy healing, right? But
Right.
they're definitely like really good at it. They know what they're doing. And um you know, I've had I had an issue with my foot last year where I broke one of the, like the fifth metatarsal, and it healed wrong, and you know, it's really painful every time I step. And I've had a knee issue, and I've gone to camp and been like, "Can you help me with my knee?" And that night, I will have a Sasquatch walk up to the tent. I will have the orbs of light flying around on the outside, and I will have an energetic, you know, vibrational situation
Mhm.
pinpointed on the area that is hurt. And that, and again, it's a request. It's a humble request, you know. I definitely don't take it lightly, or think that it's just like a nonchalant thing, or like, you know, I don't want to abuse that request either in any sort of way. Um, but I have asked
Mhm.
for help, and they have provided that type of assistance. So, and then again, yeah, like it's on that physical level, it's on an emotional level. I've had them help me through like emotional situations.
Mhm.
The aspect of needing to cleanse myself, you know,
Mhm.
from the addiction. Like all of these things are really helpful. They haven't been harmful in my life. You know, the presence of the Sasquatch and the teachings and the help that they have provided have only been positive. So, you know, like that makes me, it opens 1,000 more questions that I don't have the answers for. And like you had said earlier, why is it that some people have certain types of experiences and other people are having completely opposite, you know, experiences that are, you know, totally leveled up? And and it does have a lot to do with the individual, you know, like where you're at, where you're coming from, where your levels are, what that fear is about, what type of trauma is in your life, what do you need to work on, you know, like where are you coming to, that you don't just put your foot in the spirit supernatural spiritual, you know, spirit world. Don't just do that without like preparing yourself correctly. You wouldn't go into any type of situation without properly like you know, outfitting yourself with the correct armor, you know. And you certainly don't want to do that within the supernatural realm, which this is the supernatural realm. We're not living in a naturalistic, in a supernaturalistic world that's like somehow living together. That's not what's happening at all. We're in a supernatural world realm because that's the stuff that's happening here. We have way more, we have piles and piles and piles of evidence and personal experiences that this is a supernatural world, that there is more than just the physicality of this environment. And we are part of it. We're part of this grand story. And it's weird.
Ashlea, we talked a little bit about your YouTube channel. Tell people more about Crypto Cryptid 1487 and what they can find there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, although this has been 14 years in the making of my personal education and study and walk with all of this, it wasn't until last year or so that I decided I need to document this. I need to share in bigger ways and let people hear these stories because they're important. And so I did create the channel, and Crypto Cryptid 1487 is the address. I've also created a TikTok channel as well, which is crypto underscore cryptid. And I mostly post the UFO videos that I take on TikTok, and I'm doing like more of the Sasquatch and the adventuring and the vlogging on the YouTube. I'm also I'm a pretty avid photographer, and I have started a project where I'm designing and publishing planners and journals, and I'm taking the photography that I'm doing at the campouts and of Sasquatch prints, structures, and also the natural environment of their habitats and homelands. And I'm using that artwork in my journals and planners. I think it's very important that we write our stories down. I think it's very important that we share our stories. And I think it's really important that we're doing it in the physical, right? And not just doing it on a computer or on a digital space, but that we have a physical copy of something that we can hand off to the next generation. Our stories are way more important than the history books. What we experience in this world is going to help the next generations understand where they came from and what was going on and what we faced. So it's a bit of a passion for me, to document and to have these these physical things. Let's tell our stories, let's write them down and keep these records and keep these logs. And you know what, wrap it up in something that's waterproof and go bury it, for someone to go find in 500 years and hear your Sasquatch stories. So you can find all of those at on Amazon. I'm publishing through KDP. When you go into Amazon, this is interesting, and it talks about, again, like in the fun paranormal aspect of the realm that we find ourselves in. You've got to take my name and you got to put quotations around my name and spell it correctly. Ashlea Stinnett, because I think you want to call me Ashlea. Everybody wants to call me Ashlea because there's an A at the end of my name. It is Ashley, and the search engines don't like my name either. It'll automatically change it to a Y because it thinks that you're spelling it wrong. So when you look up an Ashley with a Y on Amazon, there's a dude named Ashlea Stinnett who is an author of cryptids in Appalachia.
Oh, come on.
I'm telling you.
No.
And I
Yeah.
never
So,
call you Ashley unless I'm looking at it on my freaking piece of paper here. Gee.
but isn't that fun? Isn't that
Yeah.
fun? So if you guys can find Ashlea Stinnett, I think we need to have an Ashlea Stinnett and Ashlea Stinnett Flash of Beauty roundtable discussion with him because he's writing about the cryptids of Appalachia.
I
That
love
is
Let's
it.
where I'm
do
from.
it.
I'm from Appalachia.
Oh, come on.
No, I am.
Okay.
You guys got to be
I'm looking
cousins.
into this.
Yeah.
Wheels are in motion. Okay.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. Next up for round two, the double Ashleys. I mean, there's so many doppelganger crossover things going on with this interview. Why not? So,
Yeah.
how cool is that?
It's totally cool.
Ashley, thanks for hanging out with this evening. Anything coming up in 2025? And Jill, any closing words for you afterwards?
Thank you guys so much. I so much appreciate being here with you this fine evening. I just have so much admiration and respect for what you're doing and what you're bringing to this topic and into this conversation. You guys have moved it again to just like these levels that are so needed, not just for the conversation, not just for the Sasquatch conversation, but for the evolution of the human consciousness. This is how important it is, and this is how important what you guys are doing is. So thank you all for what you're doing. I think Jill, we might have some fun things happening at the beginning of the year, and I don't know if we're talking about it now, but
Let's
all
talk about it.
okay, let's talk about it. We're gonna be in a super crazy haunted hotel, being squatchy out in Baker City. In is it Pi Day? Or are we gonna be there Pi Day?
Yes.
Yes.
March 14th through the 16th in Baker City, and they have the most amazing key lime pie.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite. That is my favorite pie. I love key lime pie.
It's amazing.
All right,
Just
we're
wait.
there. I'm excited. So yeah, come eat pie with us at the Geyser Hotel, and I've got a really great presentation put together, and there's going to be some other speakers, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So see you there.
Now that
Yeah.
Sherry's is closed, you have no choice but go to the Geyser Hotel.
Hey,
Yep.
we thought we'd put a conference together at
Right.
the local Sherry's. For
This
those of
is
you
what
who are
needs to
not,
happen.
now,
Is we
for
need to
those of
get
you,
double Ashleys eating key lime pie at the local Sherry's.
I love it.
gosh, we'll have to
Rest
kick
in
the
peace,
door down.
Sherry's.
Yeah.
Oh, in another parallel universe, Sherry's paid their bills and they're thriving.
Well, you know, there's been many an
another
after Bigfoot walk in the woods around 2 a.m. that has been closed out at a Denny's or a Sherry's covered in plaster. So it will be missed. There's not too many 24-hour diners left anymore. So if you're looking for a business model, I would say you need to open up something similar here in the Pacific Northwest. All right. Thanks again, Ashley. And we will, of course, see you in the near future. And I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you later.
All right.
Thanks, Ashley.
Bye.
Thank you.
This has been a Resonance Production podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at bigfootrevealedpod@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for weekly podcasts coming up in the future. If you're just discovering the Flash of Beauty universe, you can watch our documentaries on most streaming platforms.